What's up, y'all? It's Nick back again with Iolite Investments, and today I really just wanted to get on here and talk then a little bit about when I started investing, and even now, still as like a newer investor, and really still like learning a lot and really trying to build up my portfolios, which I'll do a portfolio review and a goal review. I'm working on some tools, and I'm working on really setting on what my allocations are, what my goals are. And once I get a little more established around that, I'll definitely be sharing a bit more about that and updating folks around that on this channel. But I started off with Fidelity just because I had family members who use Fidelity, and so that was just the one that I was familiar with. I remember seeing the Fidelity envelopes coming in constantly for my family members who were using it, and always knew the name, but didn't really know too much beyond that, and didn't really ask questions for a long time about it. And it wasn't until like late last year, early this year, where I had a huge catalyst that happened in my life that really forced me to buckle down and get serious about my future and investing and saving, and just put more effort and intention into it. And I thought, well, Fidelity is definitely one of the ones I've seen, so I'm going to go with that one. I don't know much about it, but I know I need to start doing something. So I went with Fidelity and set up an account. It was a lot easier than I thought. I was really intimidated for a long time setting up an account. Thought it was a lot more complicated than it actually was. And so when I actually set it up, I was shocked at how easy it was to set up and simple. And the customer service was really, really helpful. Being able to call in and have a representative walk me through the process for all of them, honestly, because I set up Vanguard and I set up Schwab as well. But definitely just that first experience of setting up my first account was with Fidelity, and it really was an easy experience, and I was really fortunate for that because it made it feel like I took a huge step, right? One of the hardest steps is just getting started. And yeah, from there, I just put money in. I was like, I need to put as much money in as I can. At the time, I wasn't making much money. I was doing some consulting at the time and, getting a little bit of some checks here and there. I had a little bit in savings, also a lot of credit card debt that I had to pay off as well. So trying to figure out how to balance that. Do I invest right now? Should I be paying off this debt? Did a lot of research around that, and thankfully have gotten my finances in a better position, a lot better position, paid off my debt, credit card debt, and have since invested. But at the time, I was just like throwing whatever I had. If it was $20, it was $50, if it was $100, birthday money, asking folks, like, instead of buying me something for my birthday, just let me invest the price of whatever it is you would have bought me, let me just invest that instead. Like, I'll take the cash and invest that. And I did that for a few months and had really no plan, and realized I had a lot of learning I needed to do. And so I started researching and watching a ton of YouTube videos, reading a ton of articles, looking up these brokerages. And I also started using this like Rocket Money budgeting app that was actually really helpful for me now that I think about it, because it was able to help me get a bird's eye view, a very centralized view of my finances from across all my bank accounts, credit card accounts, and now my growing investment accounts as well. And at the time, and this is one of the reasons why I stopped investing in Fidelity for a while, is because when I was using Rocket Money to look at my financial statements and create some budgets, Fidelity did not have any sort of, Fidelity didn't have any sort of integrations at the time. And it was just really hard to only have part of my financial picture in one area and then the other part of my financial picture in the other area. It was not really encouraging. It was very discouraging, in fact. So I was looking to see which other investment firms integrated with Rocket Money. There's also other ones that I tried Empower for a bit. I didn't really like their UI, even though they did sync with Fidelity. I wasn't happy with their UI. And then some of my other accounts, credit unions and things like that, really didn't sync all that well for that one. But both Vanguard and Schwab ended up integrating well with Rocket Money. So I went with Vanguard next. I decided, let me open up an account with Vanguard and see how that treats me. So I opened up the account. Didn't know what I was doing, didn't really do much in my research. Again, this is still in the beginning of my investment journey, and for me, it was more just open up accounts and start pouring in money, and I'll figure out the rest later. So I opened up the account, and I was trying to figure out what to invest in, and they had some like different types of mutual funds that looked really interesting. And when I was trying to like put my like $1,500 in at a time, it was just rejecting my trades, and I was just so confused, like, why is this? And so I called customer service and I was like, look, like, I'm trying to like invest, I only got $150, but like this one thing is like $200, and you know, it's just not really working for me right now. What do I need to do? And so the representative told me, yeah, like we only do full shares, so if a full share costs $200, you only have 150, you can build up to eventually invest in that. You can't do fractional shares there. So I was like, oh, I didn't know that was not a thing, you know, just starting off with Fidelity and being able to automatically just invest whatever I had was just so liberating for me. And then going to Vanguard, where it's like, oh no, you actually, not only do you have to have like the full share amount, but you also have to have minimums for some of their mutual funds, $1,000 minimums, $3,000 minimums. And once I started doing my research and hearing about like folks who really, like investors specifically, who really raved about Vanguard, I understood it better. And for what it's worth, you know, if an investor is way more established in their journey, if they have that money to spend on mutual funds, you know, like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time per trade and per transaction, then I get it. You know, it's really simple. It's really easy to use from that perspective. Me, however, being very new to investing and not having that capital, not having a full-time job paying me at the time, it didn't work for me. It didn't resonate. That being said, I decided to move on. And I looked at, well, maybe Schwab can allow me to do that. And I saw that a lot of their ETFs were a lot more affordable. You know, VU, for example, which is, again, a gold standard, industry standard, $500 at the time, or like I think I started investing, it was like $470, $480 to get a whole share. And I could only purchase whole shares on Vanguard. So I was just like, I can't do it right now. I just don't have that kind of money or that kind of patience. Schwab, however, had, you know, other ETFs that were way more affordable. And, you know, they just did their 3-to-1 stock split, but even before then, SCHD was like $74, $76. I can actually probably pull up the charts and look at it, but I was like, maybe this is the option for me. So I created a Schwab account, and when I created the account, again, didn't learn my lesson fully. I didn't do that research as much as I should have. Opened up the account, super excited. I loved the interface. That baby blue did something for me. It was great. And just very clean and easy to follow, easy to navigate. A little more modern looking than both Fidelity and Vanguard at the time. Fidelity's had a couple of updates, and I can see them, you know, updating their interface here and there. But yeah, opened up a Schwab account, started putting money into an IRA, and realized the same thing. I could not do fractional share investing. However, they did have Schwab slices. So I was like, well, okay, I guess I can invest into some S&P 500 stocks, you know, Realty Income, Visa, Waste Management, Apple. Those are some of the ones that I was doing $5, $10, $15, $20 increments at the time. And while I liked it, it just didn't really fit my needs too, because even though I'm a bit more of an active investor now, at the time I didn't really want to be so actively placing trades on things that I knew I wanted to buy on a recurring basis. And I started thinking back to Fidelity. Like, I could just set up FXAIX into my IRA and, you know, $50 a month and just let that happen and forget about it. It was great. But again, I went with Charles Schwab at the time because it integrated with my overall portfolio and I could get a better view of my portfolio. So I did all these transfers from like Fidelity into like Schwab, and I was doing some into Vanguard, and it was just like a little messy, definitely a messy stage. And I'm still kind of cleaning up from a lot of that. Nothing that I can't do, and I'm very thankful for the lessons. If anything, it helped me become a lot more fearless and a lot more confident with investing and making mistakes and learning things and seeing that I would be okay at the end. So I don't regret any of it. But it definitely was not a seamless journey. It was definitely very messy at times, muddled at times, I'd say. But so I was doing Schwab for a while, building up my portfolio, my brokerage account, my retirement account there. Started a new job, and good paying, constant paycheck. just very reliable. Had a Roth 403b that I can invest in. This year they just started offering a health savings account. So really the tools that I needed to really get a little more serious about investing and putting a lot of the practices, because at this time too I started watching a lot of YouTube videos as well, like really educating myself, really learning from a lot of investors who have just been so gracious with their knowledge and experiences on YouTube. And I learned so much. Like I would just sit and consume hours and hours of content days at a time. Like it was just really enriching. So I'm really glad to have found that YouTube community of just multimillionaires who were just, even people who were just starting off, $10,000, $15,000 in their accounts, like just such a wide range of community that are all on different paths of the same or similar journey, right? Financial freedom, financial literacy, financial independence. So eventually, my accounts and my portfolio and my net worth started taking a turn for the better. I'll say that I was very diligent. I learned a lot. First thing was to get that emergency fund of $1,000 and put that away, because I noticed early on as I was trying to put money into my investment accounts, there were a time or two where I had to actually pull that money out because I'd have an automobile issue or like medical bill that would come up, and it was just delaying the process. And so getting that $1,000 in an emergency fund was absolutely key. And from there, paying down high interest credit card debt. That was huge for me. I had quite a bit that I had accumulated on my credit card, especially after being out of a full-time job for a while. I was just putting everything on my credit card. And so paying that down and really aggressively paying that down was huge. And I did that in like a matter of like 2 months, 2.5 months. I had quite a bit on there. I'm not going to share how much I had, but it was almost getting to those double digits and like into the $10,000 range. So paid that down, and from there really started to kind of balance and branch out my savings and investments. So building up that emergency fund of 3 to 6 months, and by emergency fund, really just all of my necessary expenses. So rent, food, and then the occasional medical or automobile incident that I'd need money for. And that's kind of what started the 10K challenge that I did on YouTube, because I really wanted to find a way to hold myself accountable, and whether or not my video had like 100,000 likes or like views, or even just 1 or 2 views, even if it was just me looking back at my YouTube videos, it definitely felt like a sense of accountability that I needed to really make that happen and stay consistent. And I feel like I've kind of gotten a little off tangent, but I say all this to say, eventually Rocket Money and Fidelity had some sort of integration agreement, and Fidelity was now able to integrate into Rocket Money, and I was super excited about it. I think I just randomly looked one day because I was just like, I just really want to go back to Fidelity. Like I really, after experiencing Vanguard and Schwab, and again, both are great brokerages, they just weren't benefiting me in the way that I needed them to based on where I was in my investment journey. I happened to just like look and say a little prayer, like I hope Fidelity can integrate Rocket Money now so I can just have this financial picture that I need and this picture of my full net worth. And lo and behold, they must have agreed to something, because I was able to then integrate my Fidelity accounts into Rocket Money. And from there, I just started going back hard and heavy into Fidelity. And so that was great, because then I could do my recurring investments, I could do my fractional share investments for any and all types of ETFs and stocks that I wanted to do. And I still use Schwab a lot. I do have a couple of positions in that account that I'm really focused on building up my share size around. So I still do use Schwab. It is a bit more actively managed. And then Fidelity is more of like, I set up right now I'm setting on a 3-fund portfolio that I really want to commit to for the next 5 to 10 years, pretty much until I am looking to retire, whether I retire early or retire at a later age. And I'm really using the recurring investment features and the fractional shares features to be able to build up my share size in my Fidelity account for that. And that's actually the part of my journey that I'm going to be sharing a bit more on this channel, doing routine updates around my contributions, growth of the portfolio. I'm still setting a bit more on allocation and just a couple other things. I'm also like trying to build out some, nice tools. Folks use Google Sheets. I love Google Sheets. It's just so easy to use. And so I'm building out a couple tools on there that I really want to refine a bit more before I launch them here. But yeah, that's really just kind of been my journey lately. And I just felt it in my heart to just kind of get on here. And again, whether this gets 100,000 views, whether it gets 2 views, it's less about that for me and more just about sharing my story, putting it out there, and finding a creative outlet for this, because this has really changed my life a lot. Like learning about dividends and dividend investing, learning about building up your share size and DCAing, dollar cost averaging, into really strong index funds, really strong solid stocks, the difference between a high yield savings account and a health savings account, or an IRA and a Roth IRA and versus a Roth 403B, understanding how to read financials for stocks. What is an expense ratio for index funds? What are price to earnings? Joining on quarterly calls for some of the companies that I have in my portfolio, or ones that I am looking to add, or ones that I'm curious about. Just being able to jump on earnings calls and listen in as an investor, it's been really empowering for me. And regardless of what happens, my life has really been changed for the better. And I'm just so grateful and fortunate for that. And, I only hope that I can instill that same sense of joy and direction and path to someone else who either might stumble across this video, or who I might meet in passing, who a year ago was in the same place I was a year ago. So I think that's everything on my heart for now. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe.